They ain't here for that.
I didn't think so.
Good evening, everyone. It's April 18th, and this is a regular meeting of Moscow City Council. First up, Julia.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next up are a couple of proclamations, and we have people here to actually receive them. So the first one is the Arbor Day proclamation. Whereas in 1872, Julius Sterling Morton, who would become the Secretary of Agriculture under President Grover Cleveland, proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting trees. And whereas the resulting holiday, Arbor Day, was first observed in that state with the planting of more than 1 million trees, and whereas Arbor Day is now recognized throughout the nation and the world, reminding us that one person's initiative can make a lasting and meaningful difference. And whereas the City of Moscow and the Moscow Tree Commission are committed to a community forestry program that supports a safe, healthy, and attractive urban forest. And whereas trees are a renewable resource that yields fruit and nuts for food and profit, wood for construction, fuel for warmth, paper products, and a wide variety of other goods and materials. And whereas, when properly selected, planted in the right places, and tended appropriately, trees increase property values, add beauty, enhance economic vitality of business districts, cut heating and cooling costs, and provide buffers from traffic. And whereas trees intercept stormwater, reduce runoff and erosion, clean the air and water, produce oxygen, slow climate change by absorbing carbon dioxide, provide habitat for wildlife, and moderate air temperature. And whereas a healthy urban forest can bring a sense of vibrancy or respite, adventure or calm, escape or contentment, and connection to wild nature amidst asphalt and concrete. And whereas Arbor Day reminds us of the timeless observation of its founder, J. Sterling Morton, that each generation takes the earth as trustees. And whereas, to celebrate Arbor Day in Moscow, the City of Moscow and the Moscow Tree Commission will plant 2 catalpa trees in Milton Arthur Park with the Moscow High School Environmental Club students on Friday, April 29th, 2022, from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. Now, therefore, I, Art Betke, the mayor of City of Moscow, do hereby proclaim April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day in the City of Moscow, and I urge all citizens to support the planting of trees to promote the well-being of this and future generations. So, are you receiving, Jen?
Thank you so very much. Dave Schott, our Parks and Facilities Manager, couldn't be here this evening, so he had asked me to stop by and pick this up. Also wanted to invite the mayor and council to the Arbor Day celebration on April 29th, 12:30, 1:30 p.m. So Friday after next.
Where at?
It's at the Moscow, let's see here, Milton Arthur Park with the Moscow High School seniors.
And tell the time again.
12:30
12:30 to
1:30.
1:30.
Oh, I got so much of that wrong. I wrote
We could drop it
11:30
in an
and the
email as
wrong
well.
day.
We'll
Got
do
it.
that for you too. Yeah. So, thank you very much, Mayor.
You're welcome. Second proclamation for the evening. It's a very environmental month, April is. This one is the Earth Day proclamation. Whereas the first Earth Day was celebrated on April 22nd, 1970, and whereas Earth Day originated in the United States and is now recognized as the planet's largest civic event, and whereas it continues to serve as an annual reminder of the continual need for environmental stewardship, awareness, and commitment to sustainability. And whereas the earth is something that we all have in common, and whereas the people of the earth face many environmental challenges, including climate change, loss of biodiversity, pollution, deforestation, and food and water insecurity, to name a few. And whereas all people, regardless of race, gender, income, or geography, have a right to a healthy, sustainable environment with economic growth and opportunity. And whereas a universally consistent pledge to support and perform acts of kindness towards our planet every day would change the world. And whereas it is vital to come together and cooperate on how to achieve and defend environmental stewardship. And whereas through voluntary action, individuals can join with one another in advancing their impact. And whereas all Moscow residents are encouraged to implement practices designed to preserve and protect our environment and quality of life. Now therefore, I, Art Betke, Mayor of the City of Moscow, do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2022 as Earth Day in the City of Moscow, a special day to remember our Earth, a day dedicated to increasing environmental awareness and to encourage action to preserve the Earth for all to enjoy both today and into the future. So I see Steve McGinn, who's the chair of the Sustainable Environmental Commission there. Come up, Steve. There you go. Say a few words, would you please?
Mayor Betke, those are a lot of whereases. But they're excellent.
10, I
And I lost count. But on behalf of the Sustainable Environment Commission and the citizens of Moscow, we receive this proclamation with great pride. Thank you very much.
Right, next up is the consent agenda, which consists of items that have been reviewed by either the Public Works and Finance or the Administration Commission committees, and therefore tend to be more routine in nature and non-controversial. Any item on the consent agenda can be pulled by a member of the City Council for further discussion if they'd like.
Your Honor, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, Julia,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
and Maureen.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Moving on to the regular agenda, staff recognition.
Yes, Your Honor. Kyle Steele will be introducing tonight's staff recognition report.
Yeah, really.
Well, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. It's rare that I get to speak on behalf of Tyler Palmer, so I'm taking this opportunity. I'm really going to run with it. But no, he's out of town tonight, and he usually presents these type of recognition awards. So tonight I'm here to recognize Kelly Cooper, who was recently selected as the 2021 Public Works and Services Employee of the Year. She was honored at our award luncheon, which I thought was a couple months ago, but it was actually only 2 weeks. So it's been a busy couple weeks. So this award's a little unique in the fact that it's peer nominated, which is pretty cool. Kelly was nominated by 3 different peers. And so a little bit about Kelly. She's been with the city since 2016. She started as a AmeriCorps volunteer working with administration a little bit, and then moved over to environmental services. She's actively involved with her public education outreach programs and has been really engaged with a lot of the sustainability initiatives that we've implemented over the last 5 years. So tonight, I'd just like to take a minute to read one of the nominations that Kelly received. And here it is. I am writing to nominate Kelly Cooper for Public Works and Services Employee of the Year. Kelly is a truly dedicated and an important member of the City of Moscow's organization. Since Kelly started with the city as an AmeriCorps volunteer, she has created and been actively engaged on many sustainability initiatives, including the Enhanced Recycling Program, Wastewise event coordination, public education and outreach within the Moscow School District and at multiple community events, and greenhouse gas inventory updates and climate action planning. Over the last year, Kelly has, as many of you know, worked with the city's Sustainable Environment Commission, the Climate Action Work Group, city staff, and the council to address a major challenge area in the city's strategic plan, which was the creation of the draft Moscow Climate Action Plan. Kelly has excelled in her performance and is a pleasure to work with day in and day out, which is why she should be considered for this award. So with that, Kelly, if you wouldn't mind coming up.
I feel like we should
I
clap.
was gonna say, do we get to clap?
A plaque that hangs out our office at the North Main building.
Come on up. You can come closer. They'll stand there for a minute.
You can also write Roy and she'll probably email you one.
She doesn't have to. She doesn't want to.
Mayor Lambert were here, he'd make you, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
He would make her, but I won't put her on the spot.
Yeah, so
appreciate that.
she will be getting a certificate, but it's just not done yet, so make her carry around that heavy. Thank you.
Hooray.
Any further staff recognition?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Next up is mayor's appointments, and I have one this evening, and that's Catherine Harner for the Parks and Recreation Commission, expiring 12/21 of 23. Do I hear?
Yes, I move approval of the appointment to the Parks and Rec Commission.
Second.
Thank you. It almost didn't happen.
Sorry, man, I forgot.
Sorry, Catherine.
Okay, Ann,
She's here. Did you see her?
but first we have
You
to
have to vote.
put her in first.
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
and Haley.
Aye.
Catherine, you're here. Would you like to come up and say a few words?
Don't
Yes.
want to.
If you don't want to, you don't
Yeah.
have to. You're welcome. Okay, now on to public comment and the mayor's response period. And for the next 15 minutes, we're open for public comment on any topic of interest to any member of the public, as long as it's not on tonight's agenda, nor pending before Planning and Zoning Commission, nor before the Board of Adjustment. So in 3 minutes, come up and let us know what's on your mind. Just tell us who you are and what city you live in before you get going. Takers?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, nobody tonight. Next is the Earth Day Awards presentation, and this is something that we haven't done for a couple of years. Thank you, COVID. But it's one of the things that I think everybody on the council and certainly the mayor appreciates, the volunteers that do the good work and heavy lifting in town for us. So without further ado, Kyle, would you like to come up, or should I just go this alone?
Ah, way to delegate.
Go Kelly.
No, they're gonna hear my voice a lot next week. How are we doing this, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I was going to have one of you guys introduce it, and I was just going to do the ceremonials of the handouts.
Okay. Well, this first one is Nicole Zhao, who is being recognized in the youth category. Unfortunately, she's not here because she is sick. So I
Oh,
will
man.
accept this on her behalf.
Very good. So we'll get the certificate off to her.
Yes.
Next up,
Next up, we have Nancy Cheney is being honored in the individual category.
Nancy. I believe you've been at this podium once or twice. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's scooch over here so I have that. Good stuff.
Have a word.
I will. Thank you. Well, but first, I want you all to know how much this means to me. It's really touches my heart to receive it. I want to just say thanks to the mayor and the Sustainable Environment Commission, whoever nominated me and those who supported it. How grateful I am for that. We also have some enthusiasm out in the audience, some dedication of people who have been working on environmental issues for a long time, or maybe who are new to it and developing that sense of commitment to our community and to our planet. I think the diversity of interests out here is very important to acknowledge too, because sustainability, including addressing climate change, isn't a one and done kind of issue. It's going to take all of us working together for the long run. So thank you all for your role in that, and thank you again for this award.
All right, now we have the Climate Action Working Group
As an organization.
as an organization.
Yay,
We
Tina.
have Tina to receive the award today.
Would you like to say a few words?
Go, Tina.
Well, I wanted to say to Nancy, just, she started this first, the Earth Day Awards. She also started a lot of the action on climate action in the city. And so I'm super happy that she's recognized. And then it's been really, there's been so many people that have worked on the climate action plan and efforts. And I guess one of the things that I just want to say is, I don't know if any of you've read the IPCC report for policymakers. Great reading. I can quote a bunch of it if you want right now. What it's saying is it's urgent. Our work is urgent. It's very urgent. But the other thing that I want to emphasize is we have agency. And there's the neat thing about the actions of the city is as we move forward, we have an idea of where we're going, and we're getting over the start line fairly soon. And we, the biggest threat to us is to not think that is to defeat ourselves and think we can't, it's too big of a problem. And I think taking it at the local community, I think that's a great thing to be doing. So. Thanks.
All right, now we have the City of Moscow Police Services Facility Project in the project category.
Ooh.
Who
I
would you
think
like to
that's you,
receive it?
Bill.
That's you, Your Honor. Kelly can present it to you.
Are you going to shake hands?
Art kills himself.
Yeah, it is.
No idea who was
So-
going to accept that, to be honest with you.
Neither did I, but we're rusty. This has been a couple years of hiatus, so we're trying to knock the rust off and go on with this. So
What was the project?
it was the police facilities project. So-
The green building?
Yeah. So pre-conduited for solar and for charging stations for electric vehicles and triple pane windows, triple glazing for insulation purposes. It's as green as you can get through construction. So I believe it qualified as a silver lead project with some gold, but we didn't feel it necessary to pay the fee to actually obtain that certificate. So we used the fee to build the building instead. It seemed more sensible. So
All right, that's the wrong thing. I'll have to get a new certificate. So Climate Justice League in the youth group category.
very good.
Oh.
Okay, who wants to hold it? And I suggest putting a finger above it. So who wants to have a word? You know it's
Look at them all like, I'm not doing it. You're doing
Nose
it.
goes.
I'm not doing it.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, council. Thank you. First of all, I think like CJL as a whole would like to thank the council as well as Kelly, the SEC, and also COG for working super hard on the current climate action plan. We're really excited to see what it does. We're excited to help in the future.
It's another event.
That's Ian,
Correct one.
Mia, and Raven, by the way, in
Thanks.
case you wanted to know who they were.
We did want to know. Grace. Hi, Grace.
Oh, Grace, I'm sorry.
Right. The Pollinator Summit in the event category. Thank you. Okay, so we're doing photo first.
Oh, yes, we are.
Kelly, you can come stand. Should be on this side of the camera. You should. Well, add anybody. I'm gonna jump up then. Come on, Luke, you gotta get in a picture. Well, let's hear from the mark here. Okay, we have a big committee. So it's just the tip.
Take one.
Of course.
Is this Lori's other duties as a sign?
It is, as a sign.
That's awesome, though.
Cool.
Yay, okay, awesome. All right.
Okay, Iris, it's yours.
Wow, that's so cool. I just had to look at the beautiful tree on there. So first of all, I have some handouts because I work for University of Idaho Extension in small farms and horticulture. So this is a top 10 actions you can take to help pollinators on one side, and then on the other side is 5 things to avoid to also help pollinators. So I'll just pass those around.
Sweet.
And then for people who didn't make it to the Pollinator Summit this year, you'll have another chance next year, I hope. This is the flyer, though, from 2022, February. But it does list all of the speakers because there's so many people involved. I just thought this would be a nice way to acknowledge everyone and what they did. So I'll just pass those around so you can see that. And the schedule on one side.
Leftovers at the end of the table for anybody else who wants.
Perfect. And just also on the topic of acknowledging Kelly Cooper, she organized the Youth Summit portion of the event for the last 3 years. So in 2020, we did a live event right before COVID hit. Thankfully, I don't think anyone got COVID from our event. And then last year was on Zoom, and then this year we were able to do it in person. So yes. So, but I would like to read a statement. And I also have, I'll do this one first. So Suvia Judd was one of the heavy hitters on organizing the Pollinator Summit. She could not be here tonight. So she wrote a letter to Mayor and City Council, and I brought 3 copies. So for the record. And she and I both wanted to thank everybody. So it's similar to what I have to say, I think, too. So on behalf of the Pollinator Working Group, thank you for the Mayor's Earth Day Award. The focus this year was on ecological and biological diversity, which are so important for all living creatures, and especially these incredible tiny flying insects whose activity are responsible for so many of the foods we eat. Pollinators teach us how much a part of nature we are and how all components of the environment are intricately interdependent. The group responsible for conceiving of and organizing the Pollinator Summit includes Rural Roots Board President Suvia Judd and Board Member Deb Berman, Pat Rathman of the Palouse Environmental Sustainability Coalition, Joan Falwell from Palouse Prairie Foundation, Luc LeBlanc, curator of the William S. Barr Entomological Museum at the University of Idaho, Will Ovensky, Emily Holmes, and Olivia Shan from PCEI, as well as Heather Houston Bell, Leanne Erickson from Moscow High School, Chloe Rambo from the Moscow Food Co-op, and Kelly Cooper from the City of Moscow, myself from University of Idaho Extension, Latah County, and our Master Gardener Coordinator, Ember Powell. The Pollinator Summit has truly been a community-led effort. This year, in addition to an incredible lineup of presenters for the 3rd year in a row, we had a community and nonprofit showcase that included tables from Palouse Prairie Foundation, University of Idaho Master Gardeners, Moscow High School Environmental Club, Palouse Conservation District, Latah Soil and Water Conservation District, Thorn Creek Native Seed Nursery, USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service, Palouse Land Trust, the William S. Barr Entomological Museum and U of I Entomology Club, Palouse Clearwater Environmental Institute, and Book People selling a selection of books on pollinators. I've brought extra flyers from last year and the list of many presenters and also a card with some tips for helping pollinators. One of the best things you can do is to plant flowers, especially those that bloom early and late in the season. A link to the video recordings from the last Pollinator Summit can be found on the Rural Roots website, as well as the U of I Extension Latah County website. Thank you to the Mayor's Office for this award. That's it. That's all I got. No, I'm gonna frame it.
And I'm so proud, not a single whereas crept into that anywhere.
Okay, that's because I didn't write it. All right, next we have the Parks Department being honored as a city department this year.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Could you start with your name, please?
I'm Calvin Macy. I'm the park supervisor. This is David's thing. I'm not much of a speaker unless you really know me. Yeah, thank you so much. We do whatever we can and want to help as much as we can. David's been the front runner and implementing a lot of the stuff that he's part of, the committees and stuff, helping us get them to action, if you will. So I'm picking this up for David and he'll be very happy. Thank you.
Yes, we have one more. It's sort of a stealth one, so please come up and present.
Oh, I guess I get one.
Yay!
Thanks, Steph.
For all the good work that you've done with Climate Action Plan and participating with every other single award that has gone out tonight.
Hooray, Kelly! Hooray!
All right,
There you go.
this time I will say something. Obviously, the climate action plan has pretty much eaten up the entire last year and a half of my life, and it's not over yet. You guys will get to see me again on Monday, so we'll go over some of the public comments we received on the climate action plan. So far, it's my favorite project that I've got to work on at the city. So I'm glad that I get to continue that work. And with that, I will just like to invite mayor and council to the city cleanup on Friday from 9:30 to 11 for Earth Day.
You can sit that.
9:30 to 11.
There you go. For the cleanup on Friday.
Starting at Friendship Square.
So, yeah, this was a stealth presentation for Kelly. She didn't know this one was coming, but is certainly well-deserved. And kind of finish up the Earth Day commentary. I remember when I was a sophomore in high school at the very first Earth Day, and this was the era in which rivers were catching on fire. You couldn't see across a valley because of the pollution. People were inhaling microparticles of lead from the leaded fuel. And we haven't got there yet, but we've made progress. There's still a long ways to go. And so I hope that everybody here joins the city in thinking about the earth and what we can do to protect and sustain the environment. So thanks very much for everybody. And thank you all award winners and the people who volunteered their time and efforts to make this a better place for all of us. Now, where are we?
Snow.
Oh, yeah. Geez, snow. I heard Steve make this presentation a couple weeks ago, and apparently it's had to undergo some considerable revision in the subsequent time. So Steve Schulte from Streets Department and going to talk to us about how we fared with snow this year.
I love it.
Well, yeah, Mayor, Council, thanks for having us. I'm Steve Schulte. I manage the Street and Stormwater Division. This is Ryan DeBon. He's the street supervisor who actually had to play with all that fun snow this winter and here as of the last week. So yeah, usually we do this presentation at the end of the winter when winter's quite a ways behind us. This year was a little different because in April so far, I think we've got at least 6 inches, if not more. It depends on when you measure the snow. We're looking at, maybe getting close to the record if we get a little more. At this point, I think we're still going to be a little shy.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm okay if we don't get a record there either. So just talk a little bit about Moscow snow removal. I was surprised to know that snowplows kind of came to be in the mid 1800s. I thought that would have been a little sooner, but horses pulling plows around, that's how we used to do it as we gained transportation. Obviously, cars really pushed that forward much more quickly, but over the years, we've gotten better at it. Our toys are a little bigger, a little faster, and a little better at doing what they do. Plowing snow is one of those things that the city does that is, I guess, it's pretty critical. If you screw it up, people notice. If you don't do it, things shut down. There's no school, there's no commerce, there's no business. Our crew, one of our goals is to always make sure there's no snow days. That's always I know our kids hate it, but that's our main priority, is making sure that the kids get to school. We lost a couple this year. We've had a couple over the years, but that's always something that we're shooting for.
Snow days, you mean, not
Snow days. Yes. All right. That's fine. Thank you. So yeah, that's plowing snow is one of those things that we know is critical, but we also it's actually pretty fun. So the way that we kind of handle things is we're always looking at the weather. We are always looking. There's our cameras that we share with ITD that allow us to kind of look at conditions day and night, even remotely, to watch what's going on. Because yeah, it takes a lot of eyes to keep track of the way we plow snow here in Moscow. With this many streets and various routes, there's a lot of things to keep an eye on. And then depending on the conditions, we're going to have a different response to those different snow events. So
Wait, can you go back one?
Yeah.
Sorry. Did that say malfunction junction?
Oh, wrong direction. Yeah.
Okay.
Malfunction junction.
That's our nickname. I was hoping you wouldn't catch that. But,
Where is that?
So that's Troy Road and 95. That kind of awkward. Which way is everybody going?
Right by the.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, that is malfunction junction.
At a
Thanks for catching
cemetery.
that.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, each fall, the Public Works and Services group has a kind of a pre-season kickoff meeting where we bring all the Public Works and Services crews together, have breakfast, and we go through the entire snow removal program. So start to finish, we'll do a dry run of kind of a big, large snow event. We talk about equipment, safe operation, various scenarios we might get into, what to do when you hit a manhole, what to do when you hit a water valve, what to do when you hit a car, hopefully not. But snow is kind of evil. It'll slide a big plow truck like it's like a sled. It doesn't care. Things happen, and unfortunately happened quite a few times. One day this year when we had that really heavy snow event, it was brutal. That was tough conditions. But yeah, in that meeting we discuss all the different scenarios we might go, where to put snow, where not to put snow. Obviously, there's a lot of places that we wish snow wouldn't end up. We can't control everything, but we try to do our best to snow ends up at. We cover the different chemicals, the salt, sand, rock, application rates, those kind of things. We always make sure we talk about always applying the right amount of material for the conditions. We don't want to overuse any rock and put any extra sand or anything on the streets if we don't need it. And then we calibrate all of our equipment there in the fall. We go through each piece of equipment to make sure everything's putting out the right amount of material. So getting into this year, As you can see, the blue line shows the worst winter ever, that 68, 69. I wasn't around to see that one. My mom talked about it. That looks pretty brutal. We were on track there for a little bit to kind of chase it up the hill, the green line being this year. But really, it was just that short duration of snow, really from the middle of December until that first week of January. We got just a little less than 40 inches in that 3-week span. So during that little over 3-week span, I don't think this guy ever went home. You guys were pretty well camping out at the shop. It was pretty rough. That was about as heavy of a short duration snow that I can recall. And we kind of topped it off with that heavy 10-inch event that was, in my 12 years of plowing snow, that was the heaviest push we've ever had. We had trucks getting stuck on flat roads with chains and rock. I mean, it was gnarly. That was a tough way to finish winter round 1. We're in winter round 2 now. But yeah, so we got 54 inches of snow total in this snow season. We averaged right at 50. So we're right in that ballpark. Again, it was a rough stretch. So yeah, there's 196 lane miles of road that Moscow plows. So that includes all the city streets, but we also plow the highways pretty much within the city limits. ITD does assist on certain roads, on certain spots. Our maintenance agreement has them picking up like half a Troy highway, those kind of things. But 196 lane miles. With all of the snow we got, we did just a little over 11,000 miles of plowing on the equipment. So that was actually just a little less than last winter when we had 70 inches of snow. So just kind of give you an idea. Depends on the conditions, depends on the winters. Different snow is going to require a different amount of miles, different amount of hours that these guys put in. But yeah, it's about the same amount of work, even though the scoreboard doesn't look quite so big this year. So far, I need to,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, depending on the conditions, the way we plow an event, those trucks, the larger plow trucks, depending on the conditions, they'll make a first pass on each road, within that 24-hour period. Usually it's way sooner than that. That's what we're all accustomed to. This year, through some events at us, that wasn't possible because you had to plow the primary routes and turn back around. They were undrivable. You had to plow them again and keep doing that till you catch up and get into those quieter, less traveled roads. It was right at 24 hours to get the first pass on a couple of roads this year. And I, again, hadn't had that happen in my career. Our equipment was running, just the conditions weren't giving us any breaks. So once we make a pass with the plow trucks, we move into phase 2, which is the pushback, which we've got a little kind of fast forwarded video here. This is the road graders and the loader to widen the roads, and then using that snow gate there to do our best to minimize the amount of snow that spills into driveways. Now you can see that there's snow spilling over the blade. That's going to happen. We can't control all the snow.
That's so nice.
But yeah, this is Ryan's foot, I think, is the star of this movie. But yeah, you can see how he's doing his best not to block driveways. But depending on the snow conditions, that can be near impossible. You make giant snowballs, the snow won't come off. It'll just overwhelm the blade and you make a mess. We do our best to minimize that, but it's not a precision piece of equipment. Again, we do our best. So this part of the process can take up to 72 hours. That's 196 lane miles of road. We're widening all those roads out. It takes some time. Those are slow going operations. Here's our grader or the loader, which was one of our more recent purchases, additions to the fleet. That helps us, speed that process up a bit. But again, there's a lot of roads and it's going to take what it takes depending on the conditions. While we're doing this, we're also plowing 188 cul-de-sacs and dead ends. So those are specialty plow areas where you have to, clean up from curb to curb. You try your best not to block driveways, mailboxes, fire hydrants. Sometimes in some cul-de-sacs, there's nowhere to put the snow, or it's very limited options. So those take extra time to clean up. as well as 9 miles of alley that we plow. So in total, I think I've covered all of that part of the snow removal. But yeah, in total, when we're a full-blown event, there's 24 pieces of equipment in motion. So it's a busy operation. Everybody's favorite is the Burminator. This year it was busy. It was a busy year for we call him Burmy.
You can't not.
You may remember not too long ago, 15-ish years ago, the way we used to plow snow, the way we used to berm it in the middle of the road and leave it there. And that's where it would sit until it got too big. Then we'd haul it off. It was a costly way of doing it. It was inconvenient for us drivers. I'm sure that, there was always cars stuck on the berm. We deal with it just during the one day that it's here now. And it was there for weeks and weeks at a time. I remember when I was in college, the berm was as tall as I was. And yeah, it was a different way of doing it. We found with some creative methods and some recycled equipment like the Burminator, we can remove that snow same day. But yeah, this year produced some higher volumes of snow that required, usually we average 2 berm removals a year. This year we had 6. So way above average. And this berm here, you can see on Washington Street, that thing was huge. And that was just, one snow event. So this year in total, the Burminator and the snowblower picked up, it was 675 loads of snow. So those are big dump trucks, the big dump trucks, not just the little ones we've got with the big ones that we have to rent. So that totaled out to, it was 237,000 cubic feet.
And it goes to the Kibidome lot, right?
To the little spot off of Washington or off of Jackson here next to Kreitz. It's kind of off of
yeah.
Water Street. Yeah, we utilize that area. We have an agreement with U of I that they let us share that spot. So yeah, here you can kind of see the snow blower. Those guys were busy this year. It was a fun, busy 3 weeks. But then the snow prior to that was just it would snow an inch. It would get really, really slick. We'd melt it. It would snow an inch, get really, really slick. It was a lot of work just to keep things safe. So it's kind of tough to judge this by the numbers. I would say it was a tougher than average year, even though the numbers say it was an average snowfall. Sure. But yeah, it threw some challenges at us. Being a little short-staffed, as a lot of people are right now, that didn't help either. But I thought the guys did a great job. And hopefully, fingers crossed, yeah, we're done this year. We'll see what comes in. But yeah, I was curious if you guys had any questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Do other towns or places like Moscow about our size have anything like the Burminator?
I can't recall exactly where we bought the Burminator from. It was originally used just to pick up rows of dirt. That was its initial purpose. But there was a town that was using it for berm removal. Similar situation where they had to remove the snow from the parking areas, get it in the middle of the road, and then haul it off. So yeah, we repurposed it in the same way. But yeah, a handful of places have had to do it the same way. And when I was looking back through the history of snow plowing, like in city of New York, the first people to plow snow in New York City was the police. But they actually had an early version of a Burminator.
Cool.
It was a belt-driven loader system. It was, I'm sure, repurposed from agriculture, probably a potato picker or something that they used to haul snow off. And we've been doing this a long time. Obviously, our toys have gotten a little better. But yeah, there's a handful of places that have to do it like we do.
Thank you.
Go ahead. I've got a couple of questions. A little over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when I took a tour with Tyler, there were several plows that were decorated and drawn on by McDonald's students. Do we still have those?
Yeah, so that's the Paint the Plows program. I should have covered that. Yeah, the Paint the Plows program that we've done for the last 5 years, where we paint the plows white, take them to the local schools. I think we had 10 the second year or first year. Kind of dwindled off with COVID. It was hard when there was no kids in school to get them to paint them. But yeah, we're currently reaching out to the local school districts, the schools, to get those plows delivered, let them paint them up however they want to, and then they get to see them, out there driving by when the snow hits. It's been kind of fun for us. We have our favorites.
Thank you.
But it's better than just a boring snow plow.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a couple questions. And this first one may be more for Bill. I'm curious, how do we factor for overtime, right? Like if it's so unpredictable a year, I have no doubt that we're compensating our guys, but do we kind of look at the past couple of years of what we spend in overtime pay and just do our best to stick
Actually,
close
Steve
to it?
would be better to answer that question.
Oh,
So
excellent.
yeah, we have to play the averages and play
Yeah.
the trends, and shoot for, what the middle ground to some degree. Sometimes we come in pretty close to what we were thinking. Sometimes it's considerably less. With our situation this year being a little short staffed, there was a little more overtime just to keep the level of service at the level that we needed it to be. So yeah, this year we did trend a little higher, but the snow gave us that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask, so on those days, like the 10-inch snowstorm day, I mean, how is team morale after something like that? And what can we do as citizens, as council to better support you? Like, if you need to tell me to stay home, like I will do that gladly. But like, what can we do to be helpful? And what does your team need? And how does everyone feel after a day like that?
Yeah,
Exhausted?
That was the end of a long run. So we didn't need that. But it is something Ryan is very good at. We keep morale high. You got to keep those players in the game, because if you lose them, I mean, we've had winters that drew on and on and on, and it gets harder and harder to make those late night phone calls. Hey, can you come in? It's slick again, for the 20th day in a row. It takes some active management, but we like cookies.
Excellent.
Or treats.
Cookies.
Box of
Writing
donuts
it
goes
down.
a long ways. Yeah. Usually around, when it's snowing real hard, there's usually a full break table full of
Right on.
goodies. But no, it just takes active management, from the supervisor, from the crew. They're a good bunch of guys. They enjoy doing this. So that's what makes it easier. We like trying to make, town safe. It's a passion of mine. I know Ryan too. It's fun to do. So let's, it makes it easier when you're
And-
enjoying it.
Like, I don't know if I don't shovel into the streets.
Thank you.
Yeah, but like, are there things that we can be telling our friends and neighbors? Like, what are there things we can tell them that are going to make your life easier next winter?
Yeah, not putting snow into the street.
No
not
snow.
pushing your driveway into. It's a city code that actually has or can and has caused us accidents. And essentially, if you push your driveway out into the street, you're probably just going to end up pushing it into your neighbor's driveway, because we can't control where the snow comes off. There's a lot easier places to put it, actually, off of the street or next to your driveway. We appreciate when people don't plow that, into the street or snow blow it into the street.
Oh yes, how can we help our waste disposal
So-
retrieval folks?
Steve, could you restate the
Yeah,
comments
so
there?
garbage cans in picking up garbage cans is a tough one, especially when the snow berms get as big as they were this year. Nobody wants to make their driveway an extra 2 feet wider, but sometimes that might be what it takes, is to make room for your car to get out, as well as put your trash can there. In your driveway slot is what we need you to put it, and not out into the street where
Cars
and
can
we're plowing around it. Yeah, it's a tough balance. We try and coordinate our routes to accommodate trash whenever we can. When we know we're not going to finish the pushback in an area, we'll leave trash day alone. We'll leave, we'll coordinate it to where we're not pushing against trash cans, that kind of thing.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple other quick.
Okay, keep going.
Thank you. Someone had emailed, I think, probably in January, asking about if we had considered I think they referenced Bozeman as an example of there are cities who will do cyclical clearing and berming as far as Tuesdays, all your east-west, Tuesday, Thursday, those are going to be cleared east-west and north-south. And I know part of it's just the predictability of snow and snowfall, but have we explored something like that? Do we have a need to be looking at, are there things that can be done to help make your life easier in terms of clearing the streets, in terms of programming it, or is it just over-engineering something that's just unpredictable?
It is unpredictable. We plan for the worst, hope for the best. But with, some cities will do, you plow to the east or you plow to the even side of the road, and then the odd house numbers on the other days. And it'd be really tough with Moscow, with our ever-changing population that comes and goes every 4 years. We've looked at some different options there, and we continue to look at ways that we can improve. We never want to get stagnant with snow removal. It's always going to change. There's always going to be a new plow or a new something.
Yeah.
So we always want to keep up with things. There's some options out there that we're looking into to keep growing, and to help, better communicate with the public with where we're at with plowing. That's something that it's difficult. Nobody likes snow. So how do you effectively communicate that?
I like it when it's on the mountain. I don't want to drive in it. Yeah.
Right.
And so on that note, so I lived on A for a long time, and so you'd always see the signs that were like "Can't park here" with the snow removal proclamation. So and I don't know what are there thresholds at which the city can activate that? Who decides to activate it? Have we come close? Because I feel like ever since the A Street and Hayes signs got posted, I feel like I don't remember a year that we've activated it, but I don't recall.
I think only 1 year since creating the snow emergency did we actually utilize that to restrict on-street parking on those roadways. In all the other years, we've accommodated snow removal without having to activate that system.
Because the idea is that we would need to activate it so that the cars were out of the way so that we could fully clear the streets of snow. Is that right?
Correct. If berms around the vehicles, if berms on the opposite side of the street restricted the flow of traffic to the point that it was not sustainable, then we'd have to enact that so that we could remove those vehicles and clear the roadway.
Okay, beautiful. And then my last question. So in terms of seeing a lot more folks who are working from home over the past 2 years, have you noticed a trend any which way, up, down, or neutral as far as like complaints of people? Like, part of me wonders if more people are working from home and or have the flexibility, and so they're not gonna be as eager to call the city and complain about their street not being plowed.
That's a tough one to answer. I don't know that we've noticed any changes as far as from our perspective, how we plow, or more cars.
Yeah.
There seems to be more people in Moscow, which then are more cars parked on
Yeah.
the street. And from a snow operator standpoint, on-street parking is, we don't like it.
A joy, I'm
it's
sure.
the hardest part of
I hear
plowing
ya.
snow. It slows down the process considerably, especially with like the graders where you're curving in and out behind those cars, trying not to block them. It complicates things, slows it down considerably. But we understand you got to have somewhere to park. But as far as have people been more aggravated or anything, in general, I think everybody may be more aggravated the last couple of years, but not really so much towards us.
Right on. Love to hear it. I think that concludes my questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I was going to say too, that the complications when the snow hits is always during the university's break, and then students have left vehicles parked every which way. So snow emergency or no, there's cars all over creation.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else?
Well, I think you do a great job. And I know, Ryan, that when you pile the snow in my driveway, that you really don't mean to. No, to me, it's kind of one of those things, like when I'm getting ready to shovel and snow and all of that, there's that moment of you guys going by and the lights sometimes at night that is almost comforting. So I know it's a terrible job, and I'm sorry you didn't go home. And I believe that you didn't go home for a long time, but thank you very much. And no more saying the S word, because we're done now.
Okay.
So
it's her fault now.
Exactly. So thanks very much, Steve. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate what you do. And in spite of the grousing that comes through occasionally, I think the vast majority of people really appreciate having the roads cleared to the extent that they are. So good job, and thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is item number 7, the ARPA Small Business and Nonprofit COVID-19 Assistance Grant Program Resolution Update from Cody Riddle.
Hi, Cody.
Hello. Screen went. Oh. There we go. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As you'll recall, back in December of last year, you approved a resolution establishing the American Rescue Plan Act Small Business and Nonprofit COVID-19 Recovery Grant Program. At the time that resolution was adopted, it allowed council the discretion to grant up to $15,000 to the small business and nonprofit category, and then up to $25,000 to the community and social service nonprofits based on specific separate criteria for each. However, the adopted resolution authorized council to award those small businesses or the small business category more and social service organization. The first round of these applications based on this resolution was presented to you back in early April. And at the conclusion of that hearing, you did ask it and revise that resolution to ensure that that discretionary language was included in the resolution for both categories. So that's what we've brought back to you this evening is a revised resolution that ensures that discretionary authority is available to council in both categories. We're not asking for any decision this evening, simply to adopt the resolution that has that discretionary authority. The Public Works and Finance Committee did recommend approval of this 1 week ago, and we are recommending approval of the updated resolution this evening. Thank you.
Okay, before we go on, I'd like to comment from the perspective of one who was here when we established this program. And I'm reminded that we established this program to assist commercial and nonprofit entities that were directly affected by COVID, and not just as an event that would enable people to get money where they couldn't demonstrate that there was an actual impact. And therefore, we established some parameters that would provide even-handed treatment of all of the applications that came in, be they from businesses or from the nonprofits, and to assist processing these applications in a fair and even-handed manner. We also put in place some timeframes because being ARPA money, it has to be expended, I think, by 2024. And so in order to give time to actually use the money, the timeline was moved back that the applications have to be in by the end of 23. And so overall, it was set up so that people could apply either until the end of 23 or whenever the money ran out, whichever came first. But the whole program was designed to provide as much relief to as many different entities as possible and spread the wealth around to everybody that we could. And at the end, if there was any residual funds left over, the original idea was to roll that off into the water department's capital improvement fund, which would directly or indirectly affect and assist with every citizen in the city. So with all of this in place, the only language we've changed is what we see up there in red. But I think looking back across the entirety of the program and the way it was originally structured and designed is beneficial to further contemplation of the entire program. So, discussion, council people.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a couple thoughts.
Okay.
Bill also had his hand up though, so I don't know if you want to.
Just one minor clarification, if I may, before. The funding has to be obligated by the end of 24. We have until the end of 26 to expend it, but it has to be obligated, which technically means
Like signed
under contract and contractual obligation that we're going to expend those funds to some approved and eligible use.
Thanks for the clarification.
And I have a follow-up on that, though. Is the end of 23 deadline correct too, then? Refresh my memory
I'd
on
have to go
that.
back to because it's not necessarily in the resolution for the grant
Okay.
program. That was in the allocation of funds. Let's see. I think we just scrolling through the resolution. It was in the.
It's not critical right now. I just, I know that was one of a citizen conversation I had about, there's really not a clearly.
So under the program, the grant funds need to be expended within 2 years of the grant award or by March 31st, 2024, whichever comes first. That's just going to be the contract. Any portion of grant funds not expended by that time shall be returned to the city by no later than April 31st of 2024. Then that would allow the city time from April till the end of the year to get any remaining funds obligated and then expended by the end of 26.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a couple thoughts because I've really been wrestling with this because I think the intention of the program is good, and I want to honor that and the direction council set. And I guess to your comment about providing as much relief as possible, I'm still concerned that the bars has been set pretty high as far as the criteria and the threshold. And so I've got concerns that to add some more color to even what was discussed and what we reviewed last council meeting. I've got concerns that we're kind of too late to the game as far as the ability to be super helpful and to actually be seeing, I guess the number of applications that I would have hoped to see for something like this. I've got some concerns about the amount of work we're requiring staff to go through in addition to some of the requiring things of recipients filing reports. So I've got concerns. The intentions are pure. I guess where I would like to leave council with my thoughts are that the 25% threshold, there are businesses who likely can't document that. And also the volume of information that we're asking people to give us feels kind of intrusive, and businesses don't have to choose to take part. I get it. But as far as the small business grant side, I'm curious, after this first round of applicants move through and we can kind of see what happens and see what happens with the nonprofit applications, if there's money still left in the pot, I would like to potentially explore lowering that threshold of the 25% decrease for proving lost revenue, because there's probably entities who in town who may have sold out of all their inventory and then with supply chain shutdowns, like never, or, had enough of a delay that they weren't replenishing their shelves. And so the 25 makes me nervous. The amount of information makes me nervous. I will honor the intention of what council set forth. I'm still really wrestling with it overall, because I do think if we want to give relief to as many as possible, and we're also about to change the amount specifically about the nonprofit piece, the overall
We're
balance.
not there yet, so
Fair. But
that's another discussion.
yeah. So, but coupled with the conversation before us about updating this resolution, I don't know where we're going to land after all these applications are reviewed, but I'm, as you can tell, I'm really feeling torn on it. So I don't have concerns with the proposed change as is. I recommended approval, sending it to council as is after the Public Works Committee. So
Was that a motion?
I move to adopt the proposed change unless there is further discussion.
Well, we got a motion, and then we can have a second and further discussion.
I second it. I move to approve the updated resolution.
So that's a
That's what I said, when he's looking, I said second, and then he looked
Yep.
at me again, so I said, okay, now I'll
Because
start it
you
over
weren't
again.
Loud enough to,
Okay, second.
there you go. Okay, further
Seldom,
discussion.
seldom.
I do have
Oh.
I like Haley have spent much of the last week a little torn by this whole situation too. And I actually, my recollection was that we were okay with the resolutions the way they were, similar to the staff's response when we went, wait a minute, we intended to have this wording in there to start with. And I hope that through this conversation this evening, I can feel more like we are making these or adding these words less as a wish to fund a specific agency and more as a wish to be very clear and very specific in our resolutions. I feel a little bit like we are doing this with one item agenda wise, and that is not good governance in my mind. I hope that we don't in this process somehow put our staff back through writing resolutions and designing grant or programs 2 or 3 or 4 times in this process. We were happy with the way they came to us with it the first time. And now because it seems to me, it doesn't fit a couple agendas, then all of a sudden now we're editing and it feels wrong. I think that this was ill, completely thought out incorrectly. Does that make any sense? Did that last piece make any sense? Stevie's saying no. All right. So I think that there was, we walked through about 95% of this in the right path. And then at the very end, instead of granting it as a city, we should have thought about a third party. But that's one opinion.
I'd also like to point out that what it does is it actually simply makes the business section the same language as the community and community services one. And so, and I think that was the intent in the beginning. And so I think that what it does is it also makes that consistent between the two.
Okay, motion and a second. Time to vote. Gina,
No.
Maureen,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
Haley.
Aye. Thanks, Cody.
Okay. Nothing more to do on that one, right?
Can I ask Cody a question now? That doesn't have to do the resolution, just with next procedures.
Sure.
Thanks, Cody. I just wanted to, because I think I have it in my head, but I don't trust my head all the time. So next steps now for those that have already applied, do you have to go back and advise them that, let them know specifically that we have now changed the wording? You may need to revise your grant, right? So that has to go back out to them and then the opportunity to come back again. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Kelly, that is our plan. I think it's only reasonable that we reach out, back out to those original applicants and make it clear that the resolution's been clarified and they have the ability to modify their applications.
Thank
To
you.
the tune of the amount of remuneration being requested and not anything to do with the rest of the criteria for approval or denials.
That's correct.
Your Honor, if I might, just to clarify, the language still states there's a $25,000 limit. So as staff reviews any modified request for additional funding, our recommendation to the council will still be $25,000 because anything above and beyond that is the council's discretion. So just so you're clear, we may go back to an applicant, we may notify them that the council has given themselves the discretion to award more. They can request more. Staff is still limited by the amount, and then it'll just be up to the applicant to make their presentation to the council to try to request and justify anything above and beyond the 25,000, and that'll be the council's discretion to exercise. So just wanted to kind of clarify how that would move forward. We don't have the discretion to make a recommendation for an award that'd be in excess of the maximum amount that's identified in the resolution. So just so that it was clear.
And would that be at the end of everything, like whatever time we declare that it's over, then if there are groups that say there are 4 groups that really want to try and make their case that I really need $100,000, I really need $78,000.52, whatever remaining part out of that 25 that may have been already given, then they will come and make a presentation. And then we as a council vote on that. Is that how
So
it
it's
looks?
going to be up to the council's discretion, the timing which you'd make that decision. So we have an additional 10 at least nonprofit organizations that'll be bringing requests to you. We're anticipating those becoming the first meeting in June. If they wish to modify, and nobody has a request in excess of 25,000, some have requests that are only for 7,000 or something less. If somebody modify their application, we're going to present their application, the request. You'll see our recommendation at the 25,000 based upon the resolution. It'll be up to the council to decide if you wish to award 25 at that time and ask them to come back in 3 months, or make a decision to grant them 100 if you think the program is warranted and provides the community benefits that you were intending the program to achieve. So, staff won't be dictating when you make that decision. It'll be up to the council to decide if you wish to stick to 25 for a while and then allow them, anybody who had a larger request, to have a reconsideration in 60 or 90 days. That would be up to the council to decide.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay. Thanks, Cody.
Thanks, Cody.
Next up, reports. Sandra, would you like to start?
I would so love to start because my meeting was canceled and I didn't have any others. And I have a big week this week.
Maureen.
The Art Commission is always active and tons of stuff that they're doing. They're really working right now on every Thursday, the third Thursday of every month, they have an art walk. And so if you look on their webpage or you look on Facebook or any place else, they tell you exactly what I think is like almost 10 businesses now that have different artists, and they'll tell you what the location is, what artist is up, and the big one is opening on Thursday. The other one is to say the last one, they really decided to dedicate a big portion of it for kids. And they've got this whole activity center working on it. We haven't kind of done yet, but it's all kinds of different ways to incorporate activities for children while Art Walk is going on, which I think is a really fun addition to that. So anyways, I was pretty excited about that. And then with respect to transportation, basically it was almost Cody's show. And so Cody talked about the intercity transit service and how that was going to go and how that gets funded and how it's needed. It's still somewhat of a question. We used to have a lot more between City Moscow and Pullman, and we don't. And part of that is finances and who's going to fund it. And it was also interesting to learn in that process that it was funded mainly by the universities, and with the expectations that there were going to be students that were going back and forth. And then there was a lot of faculty that went and very few students. And I think there's probably not as many. Anyway, so it's an interesting question still sitting out there. And then a really fun presentation on the downtown streetscape project and what we're all doing on that. It seems like everybody has their hand into the streetscape project in one way or the other. And so every meeting you go to, they seem to talk about it. And then there was a request for a vacation of 324 North Ashbury Street right of way. And everybody approved that, and it went through easily. So it was kind of it's a fun, I particularly like the streetscape presentation.
Okay, Anne.
Yeah, not a lot. I attended the Moscow Volunteer Fire Department meeting, and they continued their robust discussion about the incentive program they're working on, and no actions to report at this time, but just putting it out there that they're very likely going to be looking for volunteers in the near future to help administer that program, which is a kind of unique service opportunity through the Volunteer Fire Department. So more to come when they have something to present.
Gina.
Goodness. Okay. So last week I was pretty dang excited most of Monday and early Tuesday all the way till 4:30, and then our meeting got canceled for tree commission. And then I sobbed. And then so it might have been Thursday. Yes, it was Thursday. I actually got to speak to Leadership Moscow about economic development, and it was the fastest hour of my life and very exciting. And those people asked some serious questions, and it was really exciting. And that's all. I have nothing this week as far as city business.
Julia.
Well, I got an awesome tour of the Public Works everything, hosted by Tyler and the rest of the crew. And I never thought that Public Works could be so interesting. We toured the wastewater treatment plant, and we saw that they had taken the plows off the snow plows. And I did say, I'm going to blame you if it snows. And so we all know who to blame now. But that was really great to learn more about Public Works. Then I had Fair and Affordable Housing Commission, and we talked about updates on the survey that went out. And as of that time, we had 59 surveys back, which is pretty good response rate, and are hoping to get many more. Found out that ARPA funds went to 145 renters in Moscow over the last 2 years. So that rent relief that came through the federal government went out to 145 renters, totaling $500,000 in Moscow. So that was a lot of money. We also talked about the Appaloosa Mobile Home Park, which is in the area of City Impact, and are planning to do a tour out there. We also talked about the hope that the Fair and Affordable Housing Commission can have a joint meeting with the Sustainable Environment Commission about housing and how those two commissions might overlap. On a semi-personal note, I went to Habitat for Humanity fundraiser. Happy to report that they raised almost all of the money they need for a Moscow house they're going to build this year. They raised over $140,000. And so that was a great Moscow Pullman event. And I also went to 2 very, very cold Moscow High School track meets.
Go Bears.
Go Bears.
Haley.
Well, so looking ahead, I will have some updates. I've got a smart transit board meeting tomorrow, and then I'm also planning to attend the WITCOM meeting on Wednesday as an interested observer. I also attended the public works tour with Julia and Ann, and that was awesome. At the wastewater facility treatment, for clarity's sake, the smell you smell at Winco is not the wastewater facility. It is the U of I dairy cleaning out the stalls. So I stand corrected. It smelled great. I mean, honest, fresh air is fine. And I am curious maybe to discuss with council. One thing that I've been thinking about is a lot of the infrastructure money that's going to be coming down to help a lot of our rural neighbors will be to implement projects that they wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And I'm curious what it could look like for some knowledge sharing as far as making sure we're supporting Harvard and the Hoodoo wells and things like that. So I'm curious what we feel as far as scope of impact could look like as far as helping our neighbors. As far as what happened in the past couple of weeks, had a farmers market commission meeting. Everyone is excited for the first farmers market that will be held on May 7th because it's the first Saturday in May, because Saturday, April 30th and May 1st is when the Renaissance Fair will be happening at East City Park. If anyone wants to go, Maypole at 1:30 on Saturday and Sunday. If you haven't danced the Maypole, you should do it. Let's look. And there's going to be, I don't have the number of new vendors that will be at the farmers market, but it should be a good time. And I'm looking at my notes, some cool additional discussions happening at planning and zoning, just as far as Victoria can attest to that. It's been really, again, really cool to see and trust that our planning and zoning commissioners are doing additional homework and trying to do what we can to incentivize developments and mixed use developments in a meaningful way, other than providing money for those incentives. So that was a big answer because there's some things that may come before council, and that's what I got.
Okay, cool. For me, I attended the open houses at both the Haddock and the Mann buildings, where the city is just finishing up the Haddock building and just getting ready to start the exterior work on the Mann building. People are still moved in, but it's going to get some added insulation and a new exterior and some fixing of those poor concrete block walls that just ain't looking so good. So that's going to get fixed here in the next couple of weeks or so, starting in on that one. But if you've not been into either of those 2 buildings, it's worth a look. Go see the new facilities for city staff. Also went up to Potlatch on Friday and met with some of the local mayors in, let's see, from Plummer down to Genesee, and along with the Speaker of the House, Bedke, Representatives Troy, Mitchell, and McMahon down there, and talked about issues before municipalities. Yeah, that one. And talked about issues before the municipalities and the interface with the Idaho legislature and what's going on with all that. It was interesting and very candid discussion, I'm happy to report. And also I would remind the council folks and staff that tomorrow the Association of Idaho Cities has its meeting starting at 9:00 at the Best Western, and y'all come. So staff?
Just going to cover the spring district workshop the mayor just mentioned. We also have the downtown cleanup 9:30 in Friendship Square. So if anybody would like to come down and get their hands dirty, we'd love to see you.
Okay, with that, we're at the end of the meeting, and we would, but we've got to adjourn to executive session per Idaho Code 74-206 1F, and the meeting will not reconvene afterwards.
Do you need a second? 'Cause
I
will
need a
sec-
motion and a
I
second.
will, so moved.
Okay,
Second.
and seconded. Okay, Julia, Ann,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Aye.
Gina?
Aye.
Okay, so we will be adjourning and not reconvening at this time.